All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is the Crystal Tomb. I am kcStranger, and these are three of my players. Hopefully, we'll get one more soon. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. kcStranger, and these are three of my players. And Twitch doesn't like to mute itself, so sorry for that. All right. Anyways, so last time the party visited the home of Tavrith, an ancient golden dragon who seems to be quite the home designer, I guess. Anyways, so they talked a fair bit with the goddess Innis as well as with Tavrith, who was mostly taking the form of a sort of a red-haired dwarf. Innis informed the party that, in fact, she had a gap in her memories, and that she was hoping that talking with Tavrith and then with the rest of the group might help with that. So a number of activities were performed. A very nice dinner was had. Baths were taken. People went up on the roof and danced. Alistair, in fact, managed to glitch the goddess, if you will, a couple times when he used the powers granted to him by the one known as Blindploop while dancing on the roof. After which, Tavrith took him aside, commented on it, and indicated that he should ask a couple questions of Innis the next day. So we'll see if Alistair shows up to ask those questions. In the meantime, the party went to sleep for the night. In the morning, they did a little more exploring of the area before finally gathering for breakfast in this waiting room. They've been talking a bit. Innis recently came into said room and announced that, and in fact I can probably reveal, whoops. Ah, crap. Hate myself. There we go. Reveal that now. Innis came into the room and announced that they would be going on a picnic. So we pick up there with Innis coming in, perhaps grabbing maybe like a roll off of the bench, taking a little bite of it and say, "Good morning, everyone. I've been thinking about plans for the day, and I've decided that we're going to go on a picnic. So, great. How's everyone doing?"
What's a picnic?
Well, actually, it'll take quite a while to get where we're going, so I'll give you all a moment to gather up your things, and then perhaps meet me in the antechamber. I'll be waiting. And with that, she sort of grabs a piece of fruit off the bench and hurries out of the room. And the rest of you are sort of left looking at each other. Actually asking what a picnic is. Anya.
No, I know what I know what a picnic is, but I just I had to ask just because I don't know. I don't know if
maybe Fallon doesn't know.
So. Yeah, that's kind of where I was wondering.
Yeah, so Anya sort of looks across at you, sees that you were honestly asking the question, and says, "Oh, it's just when people go somewhere and bring food, usually outside."
So Fallon starts to gather up the food in the room.
Okay. And then Tavrith says to everybody, and actually the goddess failed to mention this before she took off, but Anya and Crow, with apologies, I'd like to ask you to stay behind. There's something I want to discuss with the both of you. And Anya sort of looks crestfallen. Crow looks pretty stoic about it and just sort of nods. But Anya says, "You spoke with Innis about this?" And Tavrith nods and she says, "Very well then."
Well, I'm going to shrug to myself and gather my stuff. Not that I have much stuff to gather.
I'll ask, will we be coming back?
My understanding is yes.
I look at Anya and I say, don't wander off.
Sounds like I'll be right here.
So I leave a bunch of the food behind so that I'm not taking everything.
Okay. Y'all doing anything in particular before you sort of head out?
Not I.
Okay. So Kane, as you're sort of preparing yourself to leave, you get sort of a familiar little mental ping, and you hear the following. Goblins crossing the desert, confirmed this morning. I'm fine, though. Working with the Malankir noble, getting people out of the city. What are you doing? So, in case you didn't catch any of that, this was the message.
Crossing the what desert?
If you want me to help you, you can give me an intelligence check.
I was hoping you kind of put us to the map, but okay.
Oh,
You
all
just
right.
wanted to
You would know this map. I can do that. I'll give you that.
So wait, did we crossing through the elf territory?
Wait, what are you asking?
Did we crossing through the elf territory?
That's the message. If you want any help,
And that's the only
make the
desert,
check.
right? Like I'm looking. There's no desert south. It's just a north, right?
It's like this entire area. Like it's a big desert.
I was picturing Tindas in the wrong way.
Tindos is in like an oasis.
All right. This is the note. Working the nobles. What am I doing? I'm just gonna respond. Just nothing much. Chilling with a dragon and a god. It's all good.
Okay.
Now she thinks you're just trying to impress her.
All right.
Oh, so we're still at in the castle, right?
Yeah.
All right. Before is Tarvos coming with us?
He seems to be indicating not.
Well, can I just kind of go up to Tarvos and be like, "You got a second before we go to the picnic?"
He nods.
I just kind of try to usher him to a out of earshot of other people.
Okay. He sort of raises an eyebrow, and he sort of first gestures towards the corner, and then sort of points towards the door and says, "What do you prefer?"
Just the corner's fine. We don't got to go out the door yet.
All right. He sort of wanders to the side with you. It's a pretty big room.
Yeah. So sorry about earlier with the whole dragon horde and asking what counts as all that. I get to have it's a habit, you know. It's just a lot of shiny stuff when I first got here. It's kind of I'm trying to work on it.
Just a second.
So
I need to check something.
I've made him more upset.
Okay. He looks at you hard, and he sort of nods and says, "Well, fortunately you came here under favorable circumstances. If you're in the horde of a dragon again, I suggest being more discreet."
Okay, and just for the record, I was gonna probably gonna end up giving most of it to my friends.
I don't care what you'd
Anyway.
have done with it. Just
Okay, I don't know if that might have been
stop
better
while
or
you're
worse,
ahead.
but okay, cool. Again, apologies. Got off on the wrong foot. But you can kind of become acquaintances, or sort of friends.
He gives you the smallest possible nod that's still recognizable as a nod.
All right. I nod back and just kind of go back to leaving for the picnic.
All right. By the way, welcome, Alistair.
Hello. Sorry
Hello.
about that.
That's fine. By the way, I'm going to go ahead and for your benefit, I will repeat one section of my recap. Maybe you'd have remembered, but I just want to throw it out there. I just mentioned after you danced with Innis and sort of glitched the goddess a couple times, your conversation with Tavrith, where he mentioned a few things. All right. So at this point, basically everybody is just getting ready. Basically, Tavrith, Anya, and Crow are staying behind, and the rest of you are going somewhere that has not been specified with Innis, and she just asks you all to gather in the antechamber. Anyone else doing anything before you make your way there? All right. So you get to the antechamber, which again is an absolutely massive room. And in it you see that Innis has once again shifted forms, this time into the form of a young human woman. You know, she has that like slightly ageless quality that sort of hangs around immortal beings when they take the form of mortals, but she appears to be maybe in her 20s. She has smooth brown hair that falls to about chin length, and her face is average in many respects. It's neither particularly round nor long, not hawkish, not like cherubic. Save that the hazel eyes beam with intelligence, and she has a smile that's full of life. Her figure, she's similarly like average height, average build, but is very lithe and athletic. She's wearing a simple pair of tan breeches, high black boots, and just a functional white blouse. And as you all sort of gather up, she smiles at you and says, "I like to swap around, but if you must regard any form as my true nature, let it be this one." And with that, she gestures to you and says, "Come, follow me." And she approaches the main door and disappears through it. The air seems to shimmer, and you step through. And you find yourself in a bustling city. The road is lined with all manner of merchants, restaurants, and inns, and the occasional residents. You look up, and your head starts to spin. The city seems to have been constructed with a careless disregard for gravity. Buildings jut out at odd angles, and people are walking upside down and sideways across various pathways. And then Innis looks at you and says, "And if you must regard any place as my home, let it be Sigil, City of Doors. Now, do stick close to me. It's very easy to get lost."
So when we go through this and see all this, do we hear the Inception horn, or is that just kind of implied? Like,
Bong.
You know what? As you start to contemplate your surroundings, you hear a bell begin tolling.
Need to find a
It
quick
tolls
spinning
3
top.
times. You're not sure what that means.
Lunchtime.
I start spinning a coin on the ground. A very unique coin that only I know the shape of.
I never saw Inception. All right.
What? Go watch that after this.
Did you really not?
I really didn't.
I've seen like half of it.
Okay. So you're in this giant crazy city. Are you just allowing yourselves to be led? Are you trying to ask about any place in particular?
Mouth shut, following along, keeping close. Like
is there
I was
actually
told.
like a random assortment of races going around here?
Yeah, you see all kinds of different looking people. You know, including various like beings that are not among the normal humanoid races of Anandgrun. You see one man who sort of looks like he's on fire. You see another one who has sort of dark umbra around him. But you also see just like humans and stuff.
Any like genasi or jinn or of those types of people?
Well, I just mentioned you do see one guy who looks like he's a flame that seems like some sort of elemental something or other.
Well, I guess okay. Now I was looking for that. Would that be Ifriti? They're not on fire, are they?
Yeah, they are.
Oh, I thought they would. Okay. He's kind of he's gonna stay with the guard because she said not to get lost, and he usually gets lost. So,
All right.
but I just kind of looking and just taking note of this cool place.
Yep. All right. So Innis guides you a short way down the street and then walks through the door of a butcher shop. The butcher nods to her. She nods back, and then she walks through through like behind the counter actually, and through a door. Gestures for you to follow her. She walks back to a storage closet, and you watch as she enters the closet and turns around counterclockwise twice, and then opens a door on the side of the closet that you didn't see there before. You follow her through it and come out onto another street. She walks a little ways up that one. This time disappears into a tavern. Again, sort of walks behind the counter. This time finds her way to actually like a large icebox of some kind. Opens the door, closes it, opens it again, then walks in and gestures for you to follow her. And again, there's a random door at the back of the icebox. And this continues for, probably about 45 minutes to an hour of walking around the city. Mostly you're just walking up and down streets, but occasionally you'll enter some random place. She'll do something kind of odd looking and then open another door that you didn't notice somewhere. Finally, however, you walk out of the front door of a clothier that you've been in, walking backwards, as Innes instructed you to, and you find yourself on a floating isle of rock. Below you, you see that the city of Sigil is arranged in rings that orbit a pale white globe, and before you is a forest in full bloom, surrounding a tranquil pond. And in front of it is a table that's decked out with simple food, fruit, nuts, cheese, ham, bread, and butter, but every bit of it looks just immaculate. And Innes sort of gathers you all up and says, well, thanks for following. The way here is a bit odd, but welcome to my domain. Here, above all other places, we may speak freely.
This place is really cool.
So do you have to do that every time, or was it just for us?
Mostly for you. I have a shorter way.
I hold up my sack of food I also brought and said, well, I didn't know food was going to be here. I said, Anya said we bring food. I'll grow up food.
No worries. I may have used the word picnic a little loosely, but I had to see that it was here.
So, would someone be able to get here normally, or like from our world, without your help?
Well, making it to Sigil is one thing, and the way is long enough that it would be pretty hard for me not to notice them. But yes.
I'm just saying, like, could I come back to Sigil later if I wanted to?
To Sigil? You
With
notice all
that's
manner
a lot
of
cool
people in Sigil. If you can find your way back, then you're almost certainly welcome.
Could you tell me how to get back here to Sigil?
Well, those who want to find their way here, I like to think of finding your way as something of a test of whether you should be here. But this
Is it like
time, you're
you
welcome
don't
as
gotta
my
be like
guest.
really smart, do you?
Really smart, really resourceful, really well connected. There are multiple ways.
Okay, cool. So I'm not like super smart.
I mean, oh, never mind. Yes, you're correct. Anyways, I thought this might be a good place for us to talk, so, perhaps let's just take a bit of a walk and talk with each other. And she sort of sets off on a slow walk, on a small path that seems to wind around the pond and back into the woods behind. And she sort of looks slightly back at you all and says, I mentioned before that excuse me. I mentioned before that I've been trying to aid you behind the scenes, and I wondered if you could speak more frankly about any interactions you may have had. I know that, Alistair, you did mention an interaction with some of the Fae. Oh wait, I can't remember. Fallon with a certain, or actually, oh yeah, okay, I'm sorry, I'm centered. All right. Alistair, I know you mentioned interaction with a certain Fae. I believe others of you may have had strange interactions as well, potentially even in dreams or something like that. I was curious for anything you could tell me about it.
Well, I mean, the Fae, it was just one interaction with an individual Fae who showed up and delivering me a letter, letting me know that my sister had more knowledge than she seemed and that the agents of the Ashal walked among us. That was really my only interaction with him. They haven't contacted me directly since then, though we did send my sister off to talk to her patron and see if she might find a way to destroy the Scepter of Command, though we no longer have it. So, actually, well, do we have it?
Can I? Have
Yeah,
a look
go ahead and check again. Do you just check right now?
Yeah.
Okay. You reach your hand inside, and to your slight surprise, but also you're glad for it, you find the scepter inside the bag.
Well, what is this?
That is a huge relief to me. So,
And Innes spins around, and her eyes sort of go wide, and she says, "You have it."
You could test it by seeing if Alistair would be willing to bark like a dog.
Oh, I'm sure he'd do it if I asked.
You would be surprised.
And you, actually, everybody give me an insight check.
Oh no, making me open up my
is this
character sheet.
the same one that I made last time? That I could
Yeah,
tell
so
that
you succeeded, so I'm just gonna let
Okay.
you auto-succeed on this.
Sweet. So I rolled a 1, so
Yeah, based on
feels
last time.
good.
Oh, okay, I didn't actually see that.
I had rolled after you said that, but
Oh, okay. Need to keep this. Okay. So Kane and Halal, you noticed this time what Alistair noticed before. A look of intense curiosity bordering on greed sort of lights up Innes's eyes as she looks at you, Halal, and says, "Mind if I take a look?"
Right, well, as long as it's not Bilbo level of intense greed look in your eyes.
She doesn't seem like she's about to lash out at you. She seems, it's kind of like, so think of like the archetypical, like,
Glint
sort
in
of,
the eye.
like the
get my hands on
scientist who's so curious that he might destroy the world with the thing that he's after, but he's not like ill-intentioned. He just really, really, really wants to figure out the thing.
Yeah. I'll hand it over.
Okay.
I'm a nice guy.
I'm just gonna eye the whole interaction very carefully.
Okay.
I don't know what we're gonna do, but
she takes it, and you see her sort of, as she lays her hand on it, she sort of grits her teeth and closes her eyes a little bit, and then she sort of turns it around and looks it over. She says, interesting.
Can you break it?
She sort of waves it vaguely to one side and then hands it back to you, Halil.
Yeah, if you could destroy it for us, that would actually be very convenient.
Does she notice my name carved in the side of it?
I don't think that actually happened. I believe the magic of the item would resist such a thing.
Yeah, so I asked her if she could break it.
So that being said, she looks at you and says, technically yes, but there are certain rules among the gods that we all
Like
follow
to
for
break
good
my
reason.
things.
I would not directly oppose my brother in this way.
That is quite disappointing.
Are you
Why not
close?
put the stuff back in the steps are back in the bag.
Are we close? That's an interesting question. And as she says that and gets a bemused expression on her face, she turns around and starts strolling down the path once again. Actually, although I wouldn't say we're close in the sense of getting along, Brother Alkadir did owe me a favor that I called in recently. I think that you might have been contacted as well, right?
Not aware of what you mean.
Oh, if not by Brother, then maybe by some of his agents, devils and such.
Glance at Halil.
I look at the other guy. I look at the other people, and I'm just like, oh yeah, sure, yeah. That
You seem concerned about admitting that.
Consorting
with devils, Fallon?
Innis
and I say, and I glance at Alistair and I say, that's why, right there.
Innis spins around and looks closely at you, Alistair, and says, it's totally fine. I don't think they made any deals to steal his soul or any such thing. As I said, there are some people who owed me some favors, and, well, I don't discriminate about sources of help as much as some of my siblings do.
I was just gonna say I don't know really how to draw lines between demons and devils, but we are facing a demon army, and seems like
there's actually all the distinction in the world. And she gets a very lecturing sort of air about her and says, the devils reside, is that the correct term? In the 9 hells of Bator. They have an intense hierarchy, all stemming up to Brother Alkadir. And their aim is domination. The demons, on the other hand, live in the abyss, a realm of, well, if I was the exaggerating type, I might call it infinite chaos. They revel more in pure destruction and violence, rather than the more controlled sort that the devils do. Is that adequate as a distinction?
Well, it's certainly a distinction. Does help. I'm not sure if I feel more comfortable with one than the other. Being from hell still seems like it would be unpleasant, or making a deal with them.
True, but Well, and she gets a...
Look, I was already nervous about making a deal with Thieves Guilds, so I'm just gonna take me a while to get over the devil thing.
No, that's fair.
Alistair's a bit tightly wound.
Believe me, I know, and she smiles a little bit. That being said, a deal with devils, while treacherous for most of you to make, is a much more stable thing than a deal with demons. Given the terms of the arrangement, I perfectly trust that the party involved will keep his end of the bargain. At any rate, it looks like you, Fallon, have indeed started to experience what I was trying to set up for you, but the rest of you, it seems not. I really don't know what could have caused this. And she turns back around and starts strolling quietly ahead.
So, question for you: is the pit demon a devil?
Correct.
Okay, even though it's called a pit demon.
Well, it's called a pit fiend, technically.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Oh, pity.
Yep.
So, Fallon says, "What was supposed to happen to these guys?"
Well, I believe that the Winter Queen was to offer Alistair something more substantive than a letter. My understanding was that, well, and actually she turns around and looks at the stone that Colleen is wearing around her neck. She has the stone, so I'm not quite sure what the deal is with Colleen. She looks at you, Halil, and says, "You were supposed to have been aided by the spirit of the dragon inside of you." And she looks at Kane and says, "And you, I believe, were to get some sort of help from your father."
What? Huh? How do you? I mean,
It might be an
kind of.
agent of his, rather than he himself. Knowing the demon knowing the Jinn Essel here as I do, he is
His
not
name is
the
what now?
type to tie himself down. I said demon incorrectly. I meant Jinn.
No, I said his name is what now?
Essel here.
Anyone got paper?
Yes.
Can I have some paper and ink?
Fallon looks at Halil and is like, "Oh, no, it."
I guess I give him some paper.
You don't need to give him a tiny bit to write down a name.
It's
Kane
reluctant
writes
on the
down
corner.
the name.
All right.
I check his spelling to see if he spells it right.
Should I roll for spelling?
No, you speak primordial, so you know how to transliterate it.
All right. So how much do you know about good old Essel here?
Well, he is a reasonably affluent djinn. He likes the occasional tryst to the realm of mortals, and I understand
what
his
affluent
dancers
or
put on
tryst
quite the
means.
good show.
I don't know what a lot of those words meant that you just said.
I think it
Like
means he runs a
Affluent,
brothel.
tryst.
Sounds like a brothel owner to me.
Any resemblance that it bears to a brothel is entirely coincidental. It's less a place of business and more a place of pleasure, pure and simple.
Is he a good guy?
I suppose, although he might frustrate people like your friend here. And she sort of nods towards Alistair. As I said,
Well,
he's not one to be tied down. But
sounds like
I
we
managed
get
to do
along
it.
great.
Yes, in fact, your shared qualities may have something to do with why you've never been acquainted with him earlier.
Do you know why he didn't feel like saying hi? Ever?
She thinks for a moment and says, Do shark pups expect their father to come and visit?
I honestly don't know
Do panther
anything about
cubs
sharks.
expect their parents to come back and pay visits? That's
I'm pretty sure panthers raise their cubs, but I
well,
could be wrong.
after they're grown up, I mean.
Yeah, but it's that growing up bit part that
What I'm saying is that your father goes where he fancies.
yeah, but he could have like visited or something.
Well, I believe he set something up, and she sort of nods towards your wrist.
Well, that doesn't. That's he set something up, but that's not him. He's not in.
I understand your disappointment, Kane, but I imagine that if you stay true to the course, you might meet him eventually. Sorry, I can't do better than that. Anyways, she turns around and starts thinking again. I really wish that I could get to the bottom of why more hasn't happened. She sort of trails off and then changes the topic a bit and says, different tack. How much do you know about the item that you're looking for, Cyphera?
Get him, Alistar.
We know that it has something to do with the creation of an Eingarun, that it leads somewhere, that if we break the mirror, it should return an Eingarun back to the main continent, or I guess unhide the way. I don't know exactly how it works. And that potentially could expel the demon army, but may also just not do that.
Yes, well, it might be well for me to tell you a bit more about it. I made it myself a long time ago, back around the time that my brother made that, and she sort of nods towards the Scepter of Command. I made it as a glass to show you the way to wherever you're going, which you can imagine is a very useful thing. But I have a vague recollection that long ago I trained it on a single location, which clearly is somewhere in Einangru. But to be entirely honest, I can't remember why I did that. At any rate, what you're saying about the ritual is true. Essentially, the item is meant to show people the way to a place they shouldn't be able to get. And so if destroyed with the proper ritual, the magic can be reversed to take people who are somewhere but shouldn't be and forcibly remove them from that place. That's a little vague, but does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. I think, though, when we had talked, we decided not to perform the ritual.
Well, at any rate, it would rather
I don't
disappoint
think you
me.
decided anything.
I'm rather curious to know where I pointed it at and rather concerned about why I can't remember that.
Do you remember when you started forgetting?
She thinks for a moment and says, actually, yes. It would probably be... well, actually, no. She would know exactly. So I might be a little bit off on this, but... Alright. It was 2 weeks, 3 days, 4 hours, 27 minutes, your time, that I first forgot.
And we would know that as when we were under the cave.
If you want to try to remember back, you can either try to remember yourself or you can give me an int check.
Intelligence?
There's no way I'm
Yeah.
gonna remember day by day where we were.
Let's get-
Check, not save.
What did I
Alright.
do?
Alistair, you think about it.
Let me get
You
mark it.
obviously don't know with the precision that Innis does,
Yeah.
but you think that that's around the time that's either shortly before or after you got to Dale's Harbor. And the
Okay.
rest of you can't do any better than that. And Kane, you're pretty sure that that was after you left Dale's Harbor.
I have no
That
idea
would
what we were
be-
doing then.
If I am remembering correctly, I think that's right about once we got off the airship, maybe the day before. I don't quite have can't think
Innis
back. that
thinks
far.
for a moment and says, "Yes, that sounds right." I was
Which would
obviously
also
wearing
be
whereabouts.
the first day I was contacted by the Fae. Could also have been the
She-
day.
Wasn't that while you were? Oh wait, never mind. That was then. Okay.
It was either that. There was also the attack on Dale's Harbor, then like right around the same time. Maybe these are all within about 48 hours of each other. I'm not sure.
Yes.
If
You're
anything could have
referring
coincided.
to the attack by the cultists of Sheena, yes?
Yes.
That did immediately follow.
Hmm.
I haven't been able to discern any relation between.
It's also
those
about when
things,
you
but-
died, Kane.
Is it?
It's a little before, just
I-
before.
I forgot about that.
Yes, it
I
was
mean,
indeed a day
I
or
was-
two before.
I was totally fine. What are you talking about?
I mean, you're fine now. That's we all agree on that.
Trying to act tough.
If I recall correctly, I think I died. A little bit after I was given those salts. Remember, those made it much worse.
Innis says,
Uh.
salts?
Fallon says, what?
Do you have some on you, Fallon?
Of course I do.
And this wants to hit.
Actually, can I see? Can I
They
see
don't
a
work
little bit?
for crap much anymore, but you can check them out.
Please.
I hand my pouch of salts to her.
All right. She pours out a little bit into her palm and hands the bag back to you. Then she sort of makes kind of a snap, and just a little bit of flame lights up out in front of her hand. Yeah, she's a goddess, so she carries her own Zippo.
Oh man, I almost made a epic mistake. I'll type it in chat.
She lights up the salts and sort of she doesn't actually hold them up to her face. She just watches them burning. But then you see her actually start to swoon over backwards just a bit. And she actually has to bring her left foot behind her to catch herself from falling.
Can I go reaction catch?
Well, she's falling away from you. You can run up to help if you want.
Sure.
Okay, give me a dex save. Okay. As you see her sort of start to go back, you sort of rush forward to try to catch her, but she's already righted herself by the time you get there. Do you go ahead and go through with it anyway? Do you still catch her, or do you sort of back off at that point?
I still catch her.
Okay.
I'm like apologetic about letting her try the stuff.
Okay. Oh, no worries, Fallon. Thank you. And she just sort of spins around back out of your grasp and keeps walking. Anyways, maybe one more attack. And at this point, it's been a few hours since you left. And you sort of come around the other side of the little pond back to where all the food was. You see her go up to the table, grab like small tangerine, a bit of bread and butter, and then go and sit down at some chairs that are set up nearby. It says, "Please grab some food if you like. Then I have one other approach I'd like to try." So, you maybe take a few things, you all gather up, and then she says, "I really like to just try anything to goad my mind into action here. I am thinking something a little less targeted. Let's just share stories, whatever comes to mind. I'll start." She looks at you and she pauses for a moment and sort of takes a deep breath and says, "A long time ago, I was journeying across the eastern mountains of Gabala." So to give you some idea where she's talking about off the map, this direction. There, in the eastern mountains, I met a storm giant quintessent. These are those among the storm giants who transcend their physical form and take the aspects of a force of nature, a never-ending thunderstorm, a raging vortex, that sort of thing. I entered the thunderstorm on top of the mountain and knew that this particular storm giant had lived that way for 1,000 years. And when I came there, it asked me to kill it, as it could no longer kill itself. And I asked it, "Why, friend giant, would you wish such a thing? Why, when you have 1,000 more years to plumb the depths of this mountain and know the world better than any?" And it told me, "I am alone." So I told it, "Will not free you from your burden, friend giant, but I will stay with you for 100 days. And in 100 years I will return, and we will speak, both of us, on what we have learned. And in 100 years after that I will return again, and I will remember you. And I have learned much from Orton, my friend, most notably for present company, the location of a certain stone that Colleen now wears around her neck. As for the lesson of that tale, I have nothing in particular to say. Make of it what you will."
Is this stone the one that her mom had?
It was the one that her mom used in order to make the rather bizarre, basically
Yeah,
never
ice
melt
cube.
ice.
Yeah. Okay.
Or can we just ask her what it does? What does that thing do? We saw it make ice.
Well, it certainly could do that. That is Lacidel. It is one of the primogenitor's stones, the soul stone, if you will. It is a primordial force of creation. It has been as long as the world has been.
Colleen likes to make dead things walk around. I don't know if that
Well,
works.
she might
Jives.
get along. And then she sort of looks at Colleen. Colleen might seem like, I don't know, let me think. Colleen would probably relate sort of what happened with her mother, describe that she's had an odd dream, but that she hasn't experienced anything in particular of the magic of the stone, or really drawn it. She mostly has just carried it around as something that a friend of hers gave to her some time ago. And at this, Innes, again, sort of seems confused and mildly off-put, but sort of shakes her head. And then she looks back at the rest of you and says, "And you? I'll admit I'm grasping at straws here, but Really, just anything that comes to mind. I know, of course, most of the facts of your situations, but I'd be interested to hear about notable stories from your perspective. Perhaps I'm missing something.
Fallon says, "We found a giant snake in a cave. She was quite beautiful, very, very nice and intense. I used the abilities from that underground water monster to speak with her, and she followed us around and hung out. And then as we were in Harbor's Dale, we were underground in the sewer, and she died. And then apparently Colleen burned her while I wasn't looking and gave me her ashes, and I produced the vial of ashes. They say her name was Matilda. We would camp, and she would lay in a horseshoe shape, and I would sleep in the middle.
You forgot the best part of that story, Fallon.
Which is?
When we bribed the airship operator to allow us to bring a giant 40-foot snake aboard a flying airship. That's my favorite part, at least.
Did we run?
We paid.
Innes
Yeah.
sort of looks at the vial, and her eyes narrow a bit. She says, "Actually," and she looks at you, Fallon, and says, "Would you mind if I, just for a moment, just here and just now, brought Matilda back to give us a word?"
I hand her the vial if she needs it.
As you stretch out to hand it to her, she sort of waves her hand, and you initially think of it as like initially you're taken aback because you think she's like rejecting taking it, but then a short moment later you see a sort of slow tendril of gray smoke come out of the bottle, even though it's remaining sealed. Slowly turns into a black and then sort of a greenish hue as it falls onto the ground in between you all, and sort of winds around and around, and slowly resolves itself into the form of Matilda, looking much as she did when she was alive. And you go ahead.
I slowly approach.
Approach Matilda.
Yeah.
All right. From the opposite side, you sort of stepped back as this was happening to make space for Matilda to come in, but Innes steps in from the other side as well, and you see her sort of run her hand down Matilda's back as you're sort of up closer to her face, and she just slowly strokes it and looks at Matilda from the side, sort of while you have a moment.
Cool. I attempt to touch foreheads.
You do so, and you just share a moment of, you think, understanding, and then Innes sort of crouches down nearby, or actually no, it's a giant snake. She stands nearby and says, "Matilda," and very slowly you feel Matilda sort of pull away from you, and then a bit more quickly swivel her head around to look at Innes. Innes takes both hands and puts them on either side of Matilda's head and brings her head in close. And as you look, you can see Innes's lips moving, but you can't hear anything that she's saying. You can barely make out that she's saying anything at all. And then after a moment of that, Innes releases Matilda, and you see her sort of step back and just sort of lean backwards into her chair and sit down with her eyes closed. And her eyes still closed, Innes says to you, Fallon, Matilda will only remain here for a few minutes, but you have a moment.
I hop on her back and we joyride
All
around
right.
the.
All right. So yeah, you head out. Matilda sort of skims the surface of the pond. You wrap around some trees and boulders in the nearby area and just sort of have a joyride. The rest of you sort of wait and snack and watch on. Innes still has her eyes closed this entire time, stuck in some sort of concentration or contemplation or something like that. Finally, Fallon, Matilda comes back, sort of leans up against the area where you all are. You disembark, you put your hand on her head, and watch on as she slowly starts to dissolve. After a moment, you come and sit back down, and nope, it's still there. Still looks just like before. You never even opened it. Nothing physically changed.
Is it on the? It's on the ground though. I'll just pick
It's
it
wherever
up
you
if
left
it is.
it.
Okay, I gathered it back up.
All right. Innes, her eyes again still closed, says something about her feels like the gap in my memories.
We found her in a cave. Some goblins working for the demon army were holding her up. I think.
I've never. You don't know how foreign this is to me. The feeling of a puzzle that I can't solve. Anyways, she opens her eyes again and says, well, any other bright ideas? Thank you, Fallon.
One last statement there.
Yeah.
I'll say, well, I was using the powers from that water monster to speak with Matilda, so I don't know if that ties in.
Give me an insight check.
Insight. Come on, insight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Innes opens her mouth to speak, and then you watch her. She was looking at you. Her forehead was sort of creased just a little bit in concentration. And then you watch as her eyes sort of go up to the side, and then her face goes just a little bit slack, almost as if she was distracted from something she was going to say. And then just a moment later, she just sort of sighs and shrugs.
Do I notice the same thing as well, since that happened to me yesterday?
This is different. That was just a check for Fallon based on
Okay.
that particular interaction.
I feel like with my insight check out, what does that mean?
I should know, since we're all talking to her, if that's something that, since I saw the same thing yesterday.
I'm not handing you this one, but
Okay.
oh no, I was talking to Fallon. Sorry. What did you ask, Alistair?
Oh, I was just saying. Yeah, never mind.
Okay. But yeah, I'm not going to hand you the interpretation on this one, but that is what you noticed. So.
Okay.
Anyways, Innes sort of shakes her head a bit and says, well, please, and I should specify, I imagine like more time would have actually passed than has passed in our game. So like, multiply the time just a little bit from what we've actually, played out here. And it says, well, please grab some more food and drink if you like, and actually, Hillel and the rest of you, I want to let you know that if you would like, I am willing to refashion that bag you have as a one-way device. This is an offer. You can say yes or no. Would you like me to do so?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. That sounds like a very good idea.
Okay.
And you said Halal and the rest of you, and it's more like Fallon and the gang.
Oh, I see how it is. And Innes sort of smiles at you and
I
says,
just kind of shrug it off, like, yeah, no big deal.
she sort of reaches out and takes the bag from you, Hillel. And you watch as she sort of reaches inside of it, and you see what appears to be a simple sewing needle with some golden thread attached to it go in and out of the bag. She has sort of one hand on one side, one hand on the other side. After working for a couple minutes, she sort of pulls the needle out, ties off the end, and hands it back to you and says, "There you go."
Fantastic, thank you.
Well, anything else before we take off?
Are we going to go chase the mirror and find where it's pointing?
That seems to be the way things are leading. I am awfully curious about it myself, frankly.
It might be worth making a pit stop at the Ashanti. I don't remember.
Ashanti?
I don't know. I remember the snake people's names.
Oh, the
Yuan-Ti.
The Yuan-Ti. The Yuan-Ti, and trying to get a hold of that crown of prosperity before we leave.
Also, will we be going back to Sigil?
Do you want to? We'll have to pass through it.
Are there any shops?
There are all manner of shops.
Do they accept, money from where we came from?
Yes, depending on what you want. The price may vary, but yes.
Do you think it would be worth a stop?
If you like.
I like.
Alrighty then. Sure, we can certainly... What kind of things are you interested in?
Weapons, armor, salts.
Salts, huh? Okay, I know a street with blacksmith armor and an apothecary. Alright, well, if there's nothing else then, just follow me. And she sort of stands up and starts moving off towards the woods in the opposite direction that you guys went before. Everyone just sort of following.
Yeah.
All right. So, so she guides you away from where you've all been sitting. You go through a short patch of woods until you come to a small clearing, and there's a sort of a building with a stone door in front of it. She opens up the door and ushers you all through, and you find yourself back in the city of Sigil. She guides you about, well, call it a subjective quarter of a mile down the road until you come to a place that is appears to be lined with shops. You see names on lots of placards above the doors, even a few sort of stalls set up by the streets selling various oddments. She looks at you, Fallon, and says, "Where were you looking to stop first? The armor?"
Yes.
Okay. You walk a little bit further, and she says, "Now, don't be taken aback, but this is the best shop in town." And you open up the door, and when you step through, you realize that what you took to be, you thought you were heading into the first floor of like a 3-story building, but you get in and you realize that the entire thing is one empty space. The person who's standing in the room is massive, between 15 and 20 feet tall, has fiery red hair, is dressed in black and burgundy clothing, and you're not maybe exactly sure who this is, but whoever runs this shop is a giant, most distinctly. And he looks down at you and sort of and booms, "Welcome to Mellor's Armory. How can I be of service?"
And I say, do you sell people-sized armor?
Absolutely. Most of my clientele is such.
Show me what you've got.
Well, and he sort of gestures towards a showroom, pretty much. Now, you can tell that, so there's one side of it that has like a modest number of items that are giant sized. That's like half the room. And then the other half has quite a few items sort of lined up along the walls that are, sort of normal humanoid sized. And he says, "If you're interested in the really special stuff, that's in the back. But I'll have to see your coin to know that you're serious before I start bringing that out."
And I ask him, how much does it take?
Can you show me a few of your coins to let me establish the rate?
um, I show him. Let's see, what do I have? I haven't had to spend money in ages. I flash a few platinum. I mean, I don't know what he's wanting to see.
Okay. Yeah, you flash a few platinum, and he says, "Well, if you've got several hundred of those, then we can start talking."
Not several.
All right, then
So
I
I had a
imagine you
separate line.
might find what you're looking for on the floor.
So I check it out.
I had a separate line item for the money we took from those dragon guys. Is that gone along with all the other stuff that we lost from them?
Actually, no.
Okay. Well, I still have his purse of
Do you
gold.
have-
I haven't. All right.
So you'll find basically a full variety of very well-made non-magical items. Those sort of be in the front, armor in various sizes, swords, axes, war hammers, that kind of thing. But that's actually a relatively modest size section. Beyond that, you'll frankly find all manner of things. Various, just like magical weapons and armor, including both standard enchanted armor, armor of resistance, etc. Do you have any idea what generic category of things you're interested in?
I guess armor and maybe just the weapons I have, those replacements.
Okay, well, let me look at what you currently have and see here.
Studded leather armor, crossbow,
Okay.
great axe, daggers.
So now are any of your weapons enchanted? Yeah, your axe is enchanted.
Well,
You
I
have
haven't.
you have enchanted. You have some enchanted bolts.
I do. The daggers are down. The attack daggers are on there. I don't use those anymore because those are the ones that went away. The magic daggers.
Okay.
So I don't. Is my great axe still good?
Yeah, because that you got from the council.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so definitely a simple set of +1 studded leather armor would definitely be within your range. That's easily available. There are also +2 versions of these things, but they carry a significantly higher price tag.
Quanto Questan.
Is that how much?
Yes. How much does it cost?
Let me think. So normal is that.
And what does it do? Give me more
It
AC.
just adds to your AC. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
So +1 would probably be like. Sorry, I have to do some like mental math here.
Yeah. Sorry if I caught you off
Yeah,
guard.
no, that's fine. I just have to make it up, and I'm trying to not make any like terrible mistakes here. So like a +2 is pretty expensive. It's the kind of thing that the enchantment has to be laid down continuously over a long period of time by a relatively accomplished mage. That's probably gonna be like 2,500 gold, 250 plat, for some of that.
That should have been in the back room. How much for the +1?
The +1 is like 50 plat, 500 gold.
Okay. I'll buy that.
Okay, you just want some +1 studded leather armor?
Sure.
All right, yeah, so you can totally buy that. You do also notice some barding for a few sort of common animal shapes. You find actually a similar set of armor to something that might be the equivalent of studded leather armor that Gmork could wear, actually,
Ooh.
as well as the +1 enchanted version. It's a bit more expensive than what you're wearing because it's a custom build. But the standard studded leather armor is still pretty cheap.
For Gamork?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What? How much?
So let me think. I have to double check the price of normal studded leather. It's going to be a little bit more expensive.
What were you talking about? Barding?
Yeah, barding is just animal armor.
Oh.
Okay, so it'll be like 75 gold for a standard studded leather armor. The +1 is going to be probably about 600.
What is the plat to gold conversion again?
10 to 1.
Yep.
Times 10?
Mhm.
Yep.
So you said 600?
Yeah. So like 60 and 600 is the difference.
Okay. I'm buying it for Gamork.
Okay. So I'm sort of eyeballing your funds. That's going to leave you in the range where if you want to pick up any weapons, you might be able to afford either a +1 enchanted weapon or a weapon with some other minor magical property. You're going to be out of range for anything like really special and fancy, most likely.
I mean, would I have been able to get something before?
What do you mean?
Like before I bought Gamork, back when I had.
I mean, like
90
you're
plat.
sort of at the level where like the really good stuff, like you're not going to be able to buy a Vorpal sword in any case. But
They make those?
what?
Said they make those?
They might acquire them from places. You don't know what he has in the back, but he knows you don't have enough money for a Vorpal sword. But you know what? What might you be in range for?
So it was, how much was it for the 75 gold for the other one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh wait, for the other armor, I know it was only.
Mark.
I think I said 75, but then I backed off to 60.
Oh, darn it. What did I have? I think I had 98. Okay, well then I'll buy that for Gumark.
Oh, okay. You're going cheaper.
Yeah.
All right. So what kind of you just kind of need to narrow it down for me a bit to make it easier on me. What kind of weapon are you most interested in?
Crossbow.
Oh, okay. Well, so what's really special here? Oh, let me think. Okay, you look around. You do see both +1 and +2 bolts. You don't necessarily see anything that special in the crossbow department, but then you sort of ask him if he has anything in that direction, and he does say, "Well, not exactly my specialty, but I do have one item you might be interested in." And he brings out, and I'm making this up on the spot, so you need to give me a moment. Okay, he brings out a crossbow that has sort of a metal piece down one side. Almost think of it like it almost looks like it's meant as a magazine. And he says, "This is rather interesting little item." And he explains to you, and I'm not going to try to do it in his character because I'm thinking about too many things at a time. Essentially, what he explains it is a self-loading crossbow. So this will be essentially a heavy crossbow that ignores the normal loading requirements of a standard crossbow.
What does it do for me?
And let me think. And moreover, it has a permanent +1, I will say, enchantment on it. So essentially, with your current crossbow, I mean, this, given your subclass, doesn't affect you too much, but it has a property that you can only attack with it once per turn. So even if you're like hasted or something like that, you can never fire it more than once per turn because of the loading time. This gets around that. It can be used more than once. Moreover, it's going to have a permanent +1 on it, which means that all of your bolts carry a +1 enchantment, rather than
My limited supply.
Yeah, rather than relying on your ammo. I will go ahead and specify that there's a +1 and a +2 of this thing, but the +2 is pretty pricey.
What are the prices?
+1 is going to be, let me think, this is a pretty special little thing here. 150 plat, +2 is going to be a lot.
I can't afford that. Why?
900.
+2 was what? 900 plat?
900.
I can't even afford the first one.
He said 150 plat.
Oh, okay, we're negotiating.
If you want.
Okay, so what was his name again? Milors?
Well, that's the name of the shop. You can ask if that's his name.
Okay, okay, fine. Are you Milor?
I am.
Well, Milor, I like this +1 crossbow. However, I'm not gonna. I can't nearly afford to pay you what you're asking.
Well, do you have anything else you could throw in to sweeten the deal?
I said, and I pull out my necklace of cultist.
Okay.
And I say, and I look at him, and I kind of hold him to my chest for a second and go, this is a rare collection of cultist medallions that I have been collecting, and they're very precious, but I will throw them in because I don't know if I'll find Another quality crossbow.
Give me a deception check.
Damn it. Come on, big money. Damn it, small money. Oh, wait. No, wait. What did you roll?
I rolled insight on my side. You don't know what I rolled, but we're going to play this out. He looks at it and says, mind if I take a look?
And I say, I yeah, sure.
All right. He reaches down and sort of clutches it between two fingers and holds it up in front of his face. You see him bring out a little glass and hold it in front of his eye and look at it. And then he reaches back down and hands it to you and he says, where did you acquire this?
We defeated several cultists.
Cultists of whom?
Sheena and damn it, there's another one, isn't there? A shawl.
Shawl. I'll have to research that. All right, this is interesting. I will. How about 120 platinum plus your necklace?
Is Ennis with us?
Yeah, she's just standing there smiling.
You know, if it makes any difference, we are friends of a god. Is there any kind of, deity discount?
He looks at Ennis and says, how do you do? She says, very well, thank you, Malor. And she looks back over at you, Fallon, and sort of edges up beside you and says, how much do you have?
Well, I guess if I have 238 gold, does that mean I have 23 plat? Is that how I'm interpreting this?
Well, 298 gold is 29.8 plat.
Well, I'm less 60 gold because I paid for Gmork's
Yes.
studded leather armor,
Okay,
so I'm
so
at
yeah,
238.
Yeah.
So
So it's a little over 20 plat.
Okay. I've got 110. What did he want? How much did he want?
You said 120.
20.
And I said, well, then I'm broke. I can sleep outside, but
Yeah. And Ennis sort of looks up at Malor and says, he's got 110, Malor. And she sort of stares him down for a moment. And he says, fine, 110 and the necklace.
And I pay it over, but secretly I'm kind of like, ooh, why didn't you say like 100 or 90?
Okay. And Ennis sort of looks back at you and sort of whispers in her voice, it's a pretty good deal.
And I say, actually, if I get a trade-in value.
He looks at your current crossbow, and then
I tell him it has a name.
He raises a giant eyebrow.
It's called Floomp.
Well, I suppose that might make it more interesting to sell. Let me see. He offers you back 60 gold for it.
I accept.
All right.
Yeah, I'm not completely broke.
All right. Anybody else?
Can I whisper to Ennis and be like, you think you could spot me for something if it's cheap enough?
She sort of whispers back, what are you looking for?
Damn it.
I was also looking for some type of upgrade for what I got on now.
She looks at what you have on now, which let me actually get your character sheet.
I think it's just studded leather.
Oh, she says, do you have any money?
I gave it all to my friends. I figured I'd give him this armor and maybe something else. I
Okay.
could do a favor for you. I'm pretty resourceful.
She sort of looks around in your bag for a moment. She produces the ruby that you picked up at Tava's place and says,
Well, it was not. It was. We fought the rock.
"Yeah, but
So I had no idea.
that was outside Tava's home."
Okay, but Fergus, we had no idea that was part of Tarver's stuff.
Yeah,
when he
but
took it.
she picks it up and says, "Are you willing to part with this?
Sure.
We might be able to work something out then."
All right, let me see what he's got.
Okay. The main
Sir,
thing about
giant
the best
man.
that's going to be in your range is probably the +1 studded leather.
Do any of us notice Kane pulling out a ruby from what looks like Tavra's
Oh,
space?
Innes pulled it out, and she wasn't like particularly trying to hide it. So sure.
All right.
If you were watching.
Kane, did you really do that after?
This was for when we fought those rocks.
And you didn't give it back to him after you made it clear that that was part of his domain?
Wait, the rock fight was part of his domain?
I mean,
yeah, they just had the same lights as the way inside. It was just completely separate.
I just figured it was like 2 different rooms. I figured it was.
You're gonna get killed by a dragon.
No, we came to understanding. He likes me now.
He didn't know you had his ruby.
I'm sure he did.
if it makes you feel any better, Alistair, he actually leaves those there as a gift for anyone who manages to survive the fight.
It doesn't really make me feel better, but thank you.
You're welcome. That being said, the Galigdur are trained to focus fire anyone who picks one up during the fight. Yeah, if you would have picked that up before or in the middle of the fight, I would have just targeted everyone at you immediately.
I'm so glad that you started before, because that's what I was walking towards, was towards that room. I was walking towards it when the fight started.
All right.
So I say to the guy, or no, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Where does name go? I think I scrolled too far. Hold on.
Melor.
So Melor, you got anything for a up and coming rogue like myself?
You can see it all there.
I just had like a big smile.
Literally, we can't though.
All right, so I mean, basically, like, for what your ruby is worth, that's actually a pretty fair trade for a standard +1 enchanted item of some kind.
Let me see your selection of studded leather armor.
He points towards a rack. You see a couple empty spots where Fallon just picked some up, but there's another set of +1 armor right there.
What color is it?
It's in brown and black.
I look at the black.
And one set that has a red trim on it.
Ooh.
But he's blue. That'll just be a.
But it's black with red trim though.
And
This is
twice
like a
as
17-year-old edgy kid in high school. Black with red trim.
Yeah, never
Ooh.
mind. I'm going to give you disadvantage on all your hide checks now because you're wearing red clothes and, America, Britain, that kind of thing. No, okay. Anyways.
So, okay. Should I try and, like, haggle for better armor? I'm not sure if I should push my luck. I'm not going to push my luck. I do that too much. Kane does it too often. Can I take this black studded leather here?
Sure. You try it out. It fits well enough.
Some fine armor, my friend.
Indeed, it is made right here.
You're very skilled. Where'd you learn how to do all this?
What are you about?
I talk when I'm nervous. It's yeah.
And at that, he sort of gives a belly laugh, which it sort of sounds more like, like large rocks falling down a mountainside than anything else. But then he says, sometimes I forget the effect I have on the little folk.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you want it?
I would like this armor.
And
It's nice and snug.
do you have the 600 gold that it costs?
I have my old armor and the small ruby that Innes is holding there.
Oh, he sort of holds out his hand to take a look at it. Innes, deposits the ruby there, and he looks at it and says, "Yes, it's a small stone, but it's an incredibly nice stone. I'd say it's a fair trade for the armor."
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I give him my old armor. After I put on the new armor, of course.
All right, you have +1 studded leather now, and lose your ruby.
So, just real quick, there's multiple items that give you AC stack.
Generally not.
Okay.
It's like
That's
there are
armor
some
mission.
video gamey rules to D&D,
Separate
but to keep
things.
you from like abusing it too much, like
The idea is if they both give an armor bonus, usually you don't get them to stack.
yeah. Actually, since I'm already on your sheet, I just went ahead and deleted your ruby, just to make sure. All right. So yeah, you have studded leather +1. Anybody else shopping?
I don't know where they got all this money from. I don't have any.
The next demon army outbreak is going to be in this guy's shop.
I don't know about you, Halil. I've got like 25 platinum. I'm broke.
I'm 25. Look at this poor guy.
Come on, guys. You gotta
Walking
haggle.
around with
Get Innes to help
paupers.
you
It's
out.
actually pretty rich. It's just magical items on a special.
Well, I
plane
just
of
don't know where everyone
existence
else got
tend
all
to
this
run
money
expensive.
from. Yeah, I just don't know where everyone else's money went. I was like, oh, I guess everyone
Wow.
has.
I mean, I
tons of
could
money.
He's
You
probably
could ask-
been pocketing bits here and there.
pocketing bits.
So I'm gonna lean over to Alistair and
How did you
whisper.
know I've been pocketing
I didn't
bits?
have money. I
Alright.
just used my charm and some items for trading.
I've got like some jeweled
Trading at
daggers.
No, you bought it with a ruby you stole from Tavareth. I saw the whole thing. There's no
Yeah.
charm involved there.
Items that I procured. And
I've
it's not
got-
stealing. They said he leaves it there as a reward.
If you want to do some bartering, I've got a jeweled dagger, a ceremonial dagger,
No,
and a
I'm
bronze
fine.
dagger I
I
can let you
don't-
borrow.
I don't really need anything anyway.
Anybody
Alright.
have
That was
some
more
rations?
that was more out of character shock than in character shock.
All right.
Oh,
So
because you said Halil. So
with
that,
that, you watch as Innes sort of banters back and forth with Melor for a bit, and then after a brief moment, you all step out, and she looks back at you and says, "All right. Well, that seemed to be productive. Anywhere else people were looking to go?"
Yeah, to the apothecary.
Oh, by all means, right this way. And she just takes you 2 doors down. And let me see. Okay. You see a sign over the door that says Peter's Potent Potables. And you all step inside, and a rather thin man wearing sort of gold-rimmed round glasses looks over at you, and as you come in, it says, "Welcome to Peter's Potent Potables. Please let me know if I can be of service."
Are you Peter?
No, I'm his assistant.
Does he eat much pumpkin?
Yes, actually. Why do you ask? He gets the worst gas afterwards.
Does he have a wife that he just simply cannot feed?
He looks over at you all, and his eyes sort of settle on Innes, who shrugs and smiles, and
Kane's like, try not
then he
to
looks back and
ugly.
says, "Peter has a wife, but I think they get along well enough."
It's a rhyme.
Oh, a rhyme, you say? From what plane of existence?
I don't.
the normal one.
I don't know the name.
Hmm.
Pizza, pizza, pumpkin eater.
Fascinating. I will have to research this. In the meantime, can I help you with anything?
Yeah, I have a special formula that's kind of been lacking in potency lately. Thought maybe you could take a look.
Oh. Um. Well, let's see it.
So I pull out my patch of gnome salts, and wherever there's a space, I make a little tiny pile.
Okay. Well, I could. Is it supposed to be a single compound? I could check the purity of the sample.
So I find these flowers, and they're purple with white spots, and I
Okay.
grind them up and let them dry out. And I light them on fire, and I
Yes.
inhale the smoke, and I see wondrous things. But lately, I just kind of feel all right.
Okay. And you're concerned that you may not have done a very good job on this batch?
I also might need to charge you for the recipe I just gave.
It was offered free of charge. What are you looking for from me?
Say that. Well, so I was like, here, try them out.
I don't make a habit of trying out unknown chemicals that customers bring into the shop.
I look at Inez, I like,
She tried it. She's fine.
She shrugs and looks at him, and he sort of pales for a moment and then composes himself and says, "Even so, it's not accepted practice. Peter would eat me out of the store."
you would what?
Chew me out? No. What's the expression? Got in my head with that rhyme. Anyways. What are you in fact looking for from me?
You do have anything like this?
Oh, I see. Hallucinogenic salts. His eyes sort of go back and forth a bit, and he says, "Not quite that, but we do have something that might simulate the experience." And he winks.
Okay. I awkwardly wink back, not knowing what that means.
Do you just sort of look at him for a while?
Like I'm waiting.
Okay. And he says, "What I'm saying is that we do not carry the item that you're talking about, but if you were looking for an experience that was so similar that one might swear it was actually in fact what you were looking for, that may or may not be something that we could provide."
How much?
And he says, let me think, what would it be? 5 gold a dose.
I'll take 3.
All right. And you see him, just a moment, please. He disappears into the back. You hear the clink of sort of a spatula against the table. And he comes back carrying a small bag. And he says, "Here you go."
I say,
There's,
is this?
there's like a white powder in it.
I say, is this something I can make?
If you know the recipe.
I gave you mine.
You did not tell me where to find these. Okay, fine. You may or may not, excuse me, find a certain fungus, white with blue spots ringed in purple. Then you might perhaps macerate it, extract it using alcohol, dry off the alcohol, and subsequently elevate the temperature to 150 degrees for 30 minutes and collect the residue.
And I try to commit that to memory. And
Okay. Give me an intelligence check.
You could just write it down, man.
Hold on. Intelligence, just straight intelligence, or
Yeah, straight intelligence. You have advantage because it's drug recipes.
I do have an herbalism kit.
Yeah, but you're not using
Have
the kit. You're
advantage
trying to
because you're
remember
a drug
recipe.
addict.
So it's
I
intelligence.
rolled.
You did? Oh, I'm scrolled up. Okay. Yeah. So go ahead and record that you know this particular recipe.
Huzzah.
Pretty good roll
So
there.
if you ever find the mushrooms, you'll be able to repeat it.
Where do they grow?
Mostly in forests. Occasionally, you might find them in vales and dells.
I say, that sounds eerily similar to purple flowers with white spots.
And I wink at him.
We will have to not look out for those. And he winks back.
Then I stab a ceremonial dagger on his desk.
He jumps back a moment and says, "What was that about?"
I say, it's a gift. I found it. It's jeweled and stuff. You might like it. I don't know.
He looks at
If you
it.
don't want it, it's fine.
He looks at it for a moment and says, "Actually, why don't you keep it?"
I'll take that fancy dagger.
I snatch it back.
Um,
And I say, the man refused a gift, Kane. I'm not in the mood.
Have a nice day, everyone.
or if I give you my dagger.
Anyone else looking to do any business here before you leave? All right. Anyone
Think
else
we'll need
looking
some
to go anywhere else?
I'm pretty sure Halil needs some body oil to keep his chest nice and shiny.
Maybe the coin he bounced between his pecs has become
Right.
smooth and you can't notice the.
So, as you leave the
minting.
shop, Innes looks at you, Fallon, and says, "You're an interesting fellow. You tell tales that I can scarcely remember myself." And she winks at you.
And I say,
Yeah, my bad.
Oh, it's fine. Just, expect you might be a topic of conversation in that particular shop later. Anyways, if the rest of you weren't looking to go anywhere else in particular, then I can bring us back to Tavrith's cave.
as we're walking, can I ask her a question as
By all
we're
means.
traveling back? So I say, hey, I spoke with, God, what was the other god's name? Shit.
Cerulo?
Yes, Carulo, brother, cousin.
We're all siblings.
Got it. He told me about my mother, but just kind of didn't really give much about the old pop. Do you know much?
Oh, as a matter of fact, I do. You should understand. I've mentioned before the rules of interactions between gods and mortals. I'm already pushing the boundaries of how much I can help with what I've done. So I can tell you some things, but I cannot tell you everything.
I guess spill the beans through a strainer then.
All right, your let me think here. You. I gotta find something quickly. There we go. Your father was born to a farming family in Westeros. Attempted to move to the Citadel to join the court of the king there. While there, met your mother, who was doing, shall we say, covert business at the time. And together, they journeyed down towards the area where you grew up. They were together for several months. She used him as convenient cover. But when the time came for her to leave and have you, he went with her and discovered her other nature. When he found that knowledge, she killed him.
Right. Okay. That corroborates what I've heard. Thank you.
You're welcome. You all head down the street a ways. Let me see here. Innes walks towards what appears to be just somebody's house, actually. There's actually a few apartments. It's set up either as like a row home or a duplex or something like that. But she opens the door and you see another one of these sort of shimmering effects that you've come to associate with planes hopping. You step through, and you immediately find yourself on the north side of Tavra's cave. You finish stepping through the door and hear it close behind you. You look back and just see the stone wall. And just a second. The answer is maybe, question mark. There was a question sent to me.
I know. I like when you do that.
You you walk up to the gate. Innes opens it. You walk through once again, and she brings you back into Tavra's place. And once again, you all find yourself. Well, actually, no. You step through into the antechamber. So you're all gonna be there now. You find Tavrith is actually sort of sitting in a chair just to the side of the entrance, and he gets up. Wait just a second. Oh, I see what you're saying. Fallon, that's basically what Innes is telling you. She hasn't indicated there was anything especially special about him. Now, there's the question of, who knows exactly what he was doing during his time in the court or how he got a connection there. That's the one thing that seems potentially interesting, but he doesn't seem supernatural or anything like that.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Yeah, so Tavrith is sort of waiting to the side, and a little ways across from him, you see Anya sort of, as you enter, she's looking at the floor. She sort of looks up as you come in, but she has a very pensive expression on her face. Crow is once again, he's been fairly low energy the entire time that you've been sitting here. He's just sort of slumped, not even sitting in a chair against the wall, but sort of rouses himself as you come in. And Tavrith says, "Welcome back. I've prepared one little event as sort of a going away. All these years you'd think I'd have more words, but thing, before you go, if you wouldn't mind following me, I'd like to show you something." And he guides you back through the antechamber and towards the art gallery. As you go in, you see that he's laid out sort of a flowing burgundy carpet that wraps around the gallery in a particular direction. To the side, there's a few bottles of wine with the corks sort of uncapped. sitting there along with a variety of glasses, and he says, "You might imagine that I don't get many visitors. Mostly it's because I don't want them. That being said, I've got the entire place set up, so I figured I'd show off what I have while there are friendly acquaintances in town."
When he says acquaintance, I kind of gave him a little nod and smile.
And he sort of smiles and shakes his head and says, "Yes, yes."
Fallon says, I hope you don't find this offensive, but you're the nicest dragon I've ever met.
He laughs and says, "Well, started contemplating my own mortality recently."
I say, Hellale's okay, but
Yes.
Wait, don't dragons live forever?
No, we don't. We do have a natural life cycle. The fact that
Huh.
we tend to hoard vast amounts of wealth brings challenges. But
Ooh, wait, Casey. So has Kane seen him yet as Big Dragon?
yeah,
I did win. I thought.
you saw him. You, Haleo, and Alistair were sort of in the hall right here, and he came out of the vault in dragon form.
Oh yeah, I forgot I was there with them. No, wait, I was there.
Gamork was there,
Yeah,
right?
you
Oh
were
no,
there
I
'cause
failed
you
to
were
check to see
waiting
what was in the
for
room.
you were
Never
waiting
mind.
to speak with what's her face.
Innis.
Yes,
That's the
yes,
one.
yes. Never mind. Okay, go ahead.
So, you spend some time. You share some wine. He's got oh, what's the name of that? He's got like a Malbec and a Sauvignon Blanc set out, I'll call it. Although they're probably not called that exactly, but a very sort of herbal, mineral tasting, very bright and dry white wine, a very sort of deep, rich red wine with the flavor of cherry and blueberries and oak in it. And you all spend some time walking around. He shows you a variety of what he has out. You see a work called The Birth of the Gods, which is a shattered sphere of light from which there are lances radiating out in 9 directions with the symbolism of the 9 gods on them. You see a painting called The Woods at Night, which is an eerie scene looking out over a dense forest. And he explains that it's a work depicting the region known as the Backwoods in the south of Gavila. There's a work called The Creation of the Dragons. You see an image of a thin, studious man, a bright-eyed, energetic woman, and a mischievous, devilish-looking man sculpting the dragons from raw elements. You see an image called The Burning of Behevet, which is a large red dragon laying waste to a town, actually filled with both humans and dragonborn. You see an image called the Western Horizon, which is a vantage from the Western Mountain. And actually, let me go ahead and point out where some of these places are. So, the Backwoods is this region here. Behevet is here. When your people left, it was actually an extremely large city, but this is clearly from an early age. There's one called the Western Horizon, which is a view out over the Western Sea. And Innis actually, just mentions that there's a nearly endless expanse of sea in this direction, though she says there are people beyond it. And finally, he shows you a painting called The Garden. It's a flower garden with children playing inside, rimmed in thorny hedges and black iron. Outside, there's water that's risen to about half the height of the hedge, and you see foam flecks on the surface and flies flitting across the top of the water. Any comments?
Man, you got a lot of
Go ahead.
cool paintings here.
Just one of the things we like to hoard.
Fallon goes and looks at the one about the woods.
Okay.
You did any
You
of these while you were in your dragon form?
No, none of these are mine. I collected them from various sources. Fallon, you look at that painting more closely. Let me think here, real quick. Give me perception.
Swear to God, I rolled it. Damn it.
You see an image of just very thick, sort of deciduous trees, the moon shining down in a crescent shape on it. Very small at the bottom of the picture. You see some small figures, and you notice one of them wielding an axe at the edge of the woods.
I say, I pointed out and I say, what's that about?
Oh, that is from the age when the excavation, if you will, of the backwoods was just beginning. The entire southern cape was once a great forest, and paths were carved through it. When I last left Gavila, it was mostly the eastern portion that had been carved out, if you will, but this is from that time. And he points to the figure that you noticed, and then says, and if you look up here, and you see, you didn't notice it before, but you see a pair of yellow eyes gleaming back from the forest. It says, the losses associated with excavating those woods were larger than initially thought. And this is a bit of a nod to that.
And I say, what's in the woods?
And let me think. He says simply, besides the usual beasts, there are, shall we say, monstrosities. Not to mention one or two of my kin.
That's interesting. I guess there's much else to talk about there.
Yeah, that's about it. I mean, it's done in a very realistic style. Like, it's one of those where you might do a slight double take from a distance, thinking that it was like just actually an image, until you get close and see the texture of the paint. All right. Anyone else commenting on anything in particular?
Kane's just gonna keep admiring, but not really saying much else.
Okay.
It's all fascinating.
Thank you. So after a time of wandering around, you sort of head back. Actually, you head into, or whoops. Yeah, I suppose you would just head back here one more time, or yeah, you'd head back here one more time. Sort of the comfy chairs have been set up in sort of an oval shape. And once again, sort of a dinner spread has been laid out on the bar. And it's just sort of, if you're hungry, you can pick at it kind of thing.
I go to Anya and I say, and I point out Gamork's cool new armor.
She looks down at him and says, "Oh, that's fascinating. Where'd you get it? Looks very well made."
I say, yeah, this what a giant named Maril.
Where'd you run into a giant? I've never even heard of any. I've only heard them in stories.
Have you heard of a place called Sigil?
And her eyes go wide a bit. Innes took you there?
Yep, it was weird.
And you see her sort of close her eyes and sort of grimace for a moment. And she says, "I would be lying if I said I did not feel sharp pangs of jealousy at realizing you went there."
And I say, I can tell you all about it tonight.
She looks up at you and says, or actually, give me okay. I'm gonna put it to you this way.
Okay.
You can make a charisma check. If you want, you can make it a persuasion check.
What is? They're the same to me.
The point is
Well-
not the modifier. The point is your intent.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So she.
Wait, which was which?
Okay, so there's subtext going on here. So when you say that you can tell it to her tonight, are you trying to convince her to listen to a story? Or do you have other intentions?
A bit
I
of
promise
both.
I won't make you role play it. Okay, then give me persuasion.
Okay. Damn. Oh,
So the only question is,
did I have advantage? Right.
that is the question. Yeah, actually, I was almost gonna give it to Chance, but I actually kind of think you should. All right, so yeah, she looks at you and says, "Well, I'd love to hear about it," and just sort of her eyes sparkle as she looks back at you.
Huzzah.
All right, so I'm gonna leave the rest as subtext, but
Perfect.
I know and you know.
Works for me.
You guys gotta act it out, man.
No, we're good.
All right.
Ken's gonna take whenever Ennis is like kind of away, Ken's gonna take an opportunity to go talk to her again.
To Innes, you could pull her aside while you're transitioning rooms, perhaps.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, so as you're heading from the gallery to the other room, I'll say this is probably when Fallon's having his conversation around this time. You sort of, ask Innes if you can have a quick word with her, and she said sure, and you duck aside into this hallway over here.
So, how would someone without magic get to the elemental plane of air?
Right. I did say that I would try to tell you something about that. First, there are two ways. One does require magic. There are areas where your plane verges on the material plane. Look for mountains, especially very high ones. Look for cold and barren places. In those places, it does still take magic, but if a being of the elemental plane having magic were to notice you there, they might open a way, or a sufficiently powerful mage might open a way. There is one other path. Let me think about this real quick. Whoops, not that one. You cannot reach it from your island, but if you were to leave and head past Isteri Forest, over the northern mountains, and continue for a very long time, then you might reach the place where that plain verges on our own, or on your own.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's it.
All right. So you all sort of settle in Tavra's parlor, and finally, you have some brief chatter. You're all talking about things that you've seen and done, but then Innes sort of pipes in and says, "And now, if you all will, I believe it's time that certain decisions be made. First of all, Tavrith, I believe you had the discussion that we mentioned before with the others," and he nods, and she says, "We have advised Crow to return to his people and muster them for an assault against the Goblin army. So, if there is no objection, then we will be soon transporting Crow to his destination."
Oh yeah, the Goblin Army is crossing the desert.
I'm aware of that as well, but
Forgot to mention that, guys. Sorry, I keep forgetting to mention these things.
anyone responding to Kane, or are you just letting Innes continue?
Just letting him stay his peace. Letting him
Okay.
blather on about. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Keep groveling, Kane. Keep groveling.
All right. Innes sort of nods. So if any of you have matters to settle up with him, should do so tonight. Secondly, Anya, I believe, has been offered a choice, and Anya sort of solemnly nods. She can, if she wishes, continue with you, but I have set before her the option of returning to her people in the Dragonborn territory. The assault of the demons upon Anongrun has strained the already fraying ties between the Dragonborn and the rest of Anongrun's races. And I believe that a messenger bearing word from Innis could go far in uniting them.
Sorry, my crisis on the home front. I missed most of that. I heard the part about her going to the Dragonborn territory, though.
Okay. The other
Crow
thing
and
is,
Anya are going off. Well, that's a suggestion.
yeah, Crow, it sounds like he intends to go back and meet up with the rest of the orcs and try to muster some kind of assault. Anya has basically been offered a choice of whether to go back and assist in sort of keeping the Dragonborn in on the fight against the demon army, like with everybody else, or continuing with you all. And then Innis continues, and last of all is the decision for how the rest of us should proceed, or you really. After talking to you all, I am of the opinion that I would like to know the mystery that my mind cannot remember. I would like to follow Cythera to, and again, she hesitates. I would like you all to follow Cythera to where it leads, that we may reveal the secret that lies at the heart of this land. I am curious if anyone would speak against this conclusion, however.
I'll do whatever you think the right course of action is.
Fallon looks around.
I'm just looking at the faces of the guys in the room here. I think we're good.
But as you say that, your eyes sort of settle over Tavrith, and he says, "Actually, Goddess, with all respect, I have a few misgivings myself. I witnessed something troubling the other night when you were dancing with Alistair, and I am concerned about their tale concerning the aboleth. The gap in your memory, the strange abilities that they have discussed, seems somehow connected to me, and I would much prefer that we let this mystery lie for a time and focus on the threat of the Ashal. I would also put in that it would be of interest to me to further examine them using certain magical artifacts at my disposal to attempt to learn more about the nature of these abilities."
So Fallon says,
Well, when I spoke with Carulo, he made me fight a thing in my head, I think, or a thing somewhere, and I believe I am void of any aboleth infection or whatever.
I had a similar experience, although God didn't make me do it. It was while I was dead. But yeah, I don't have my aboleth power thing anymore either. After I killed the thing in my head.
And then Innes says, "I'm sorry, Tavrith, but I fail to see how that's a particular problem for this errand. Why..." And she hesitates for a moment. "Yes, there is the fight against the Ashal, which, unfortunately, again, due to the certain limitations, I can only intervene in directly so much as I have an interest. But that is not my interest. My interest is not to decide who wins and loses in the world of power struggles. My interest is to uncover mysteries, and I am more concerned by this gap in my memory than anything, and I would desperately like to fill it." And Tavrith sort of shrugs a bit and says, "Well, perhaps we leave it to them to decide then."
As they were arguing though, Kane's kind of sinks his chair a bit, like mom and dad are fighting. I mean, can't you just like take like a hammer to everyone else to get their things out of their heads? That way we can do what you want and keep Tarverth happy.
Innes shrugs and says, "If you really think it's necessary."
Carulo seemed to think so. Shrug.
I mean, it can't hurt. I mean, if that's the thing in my head, definitely seemed really bad when I saw it. Like I didn't know what it was, but it had to die.
Kind of gross, right?
Yeah, my it had like mouths everywhere and stuff, and I was like,
I don't even remember. I blocked it out.
but it was pretty just they were awful. I don't think we want that in everyone's heads.
Tavrith sort of leans forward in his chair then, and you see a slight smile start to creep up as he looks from Colleen to Alistair to Halil. And he says, "So, do I get to poke around inside your head?"
I would love to speak to my, I guess, against that idea, but letting people poke around in my head is how I got here in the first place. So that'd be a little hypocritical of me, then, wouldn't it?
Shrugs. "I wasn't there. I don't know the circumstances."
I will say that if we're to be in more dangerous situations, I don't know what the costs associated with these abilities are, but they have proven quite valuable at making sure we aren't dead.
"I'm not going to force you. The goddess clearly disagrees, and that is no small thing."
Come on, Alistair. You wanted me to trust you guys to get the apples poked in my head. You're not gonna let Tavrith, who is of a much more reputable individual, poke inside your head now?
I just said that I would let him, and I don't know if you understood all the words I used.
Apparently not. I heard something about being hypocritical.
I said it would be hypocritical for me to refuse, but I said keeping the powers seems useful in potentially the upcoming fight. If Halil and Colleen see that as the best option, or Innes, then I'm open to it.
I would not object to this. While the powers that were granted to us have been useful, as you said, perhaps there is some cost that we're not quite aware of, a trip associated with them.
As you finish saying that, Tavrith stands up and seems somehow taller and more animated than he was before. Like, if he seemed like a particularly tall dwarf before, now he just seems tall. He stalks over to the other side of the room, closer to the door, and shimmers. And let's actually represent this. And moves into his full, enormous, draconic form.
As he does that, Kane's just like, cool.
Do we need to squeeze against the walls?
Well, he's not using the Terrifying Presence ability. So you don't have to, but you certainly can. So, a probably
Kane gets close.
20-foot long dragon with golden shimmering ridges going all the way down his back and tail, sort of large fan-like wings, and almost like whisker-like fronds coming down off of his face. And he sort of swings his neck down around and looks straight at Halil, takes a deep breath, and says, "Well, let's get on with it then." And you see on the face of a dragon, a very creepy looking smile across his face as he raises one leg and pushes the door open with a slight bang and steps out of the room. "Follow me."
He just big old grin in his face. Come on, Halil, follow him.
Yeah, all y'all. So, yeah. All right. I'm not gonna like represent this all the way, but
No.
well, there we go. All right. So,
Everybody, or just the people who need it?
yeah. Everybody's heading out. We're all going on a field trip. So Tavrith stalks over to the door of his vault and you see him sort of raise a massive claw.
Sorry, I was laughing because Kane like flinched.
Sort of sinks it into part of the door, twists it one way, and then moves basically a large combination lock essentially on the door, and then pulls a massive handle down.
Kane turns his head away. He doesn't look. He's trying to like see the clear or anything. Make it clear. I'm not looking.
Pushes the thing open. You see once again the glint of shiny objects coming from within the room. He steps into it and calls back, "After me, don't be shy." And you all step into the room. You see one gigantic room. It is sort of laid out in sections. So one part of the room is basically just a massive pile of gold and silver and similar metallic coins and objects, gemstones, and other sort of more worked pieces. Then to the other side, there's a more open area, and you actually see a variety of very ornate and well-crafted musical instruments there. There are scattered pockets of other precious items, such as more artwork that isn't displayed, some extra books and things like that. But he brings you in, starts guiding you over towards the section with the instruments.
As we're going forward, Kane's like very tense and staring straight forward, not looking at any of the treasure.
And that is where we're going to end for tonight. All right.
Now none of us will have powers. Ha!
And with that, I'm going to say goodbye, stream. So everybody say goodbye, stream.
Make good
Bye,
choices.
stream.